Welcome to episode 14 of Raj's Minecraft Guide, and today I'm going to be building a cave storage system. This is way overdue. So right now my items are all over the place, they aren't sorted, and you can see I'm still using my base for my storage. There are shulker boxes all over the place, and it takes forever for me to find anything when I'm trying to do a project. So the spot I'm going to be building this storage system is inside of this hill next to my base. There is a nice sloping terrain so I can mine out the side of this and put a giant storage system inside. So the first part of this was to widen the area in front of the cave. Even though I don't have to put a building around the storage system, I need to make the entrance more elaborate and at least look interesting. I've always thought the cave temples were cool based on how they could mine areas into the side of mountains, so that is what I'm aiming for. So after all of that, I had to actually dig out the area for the storage system. So I wanted multiple entrances into the storage system because it will take a long time to get to some of the chest if I only have one entrance. Also, I thought it would be cool if you could see into the storage system if you were flying by, although that didn't work because of the angles and the layout. Next was just a lot of mining. I need to create as much space as possible inside to have an area to work with. There is also a ravine on the other side that I'm trying not to hit because if I do, it will ruin that part of the terrain. The storage system is going to be a giant square like a grid. For this, I did a ton of mining, but eventually I got the space cleared out and have netherrack laid out for what I'm planning on doing with the chest and the redstone. One of the big mistakes I made last time was making my storage system too big, and this time I'm trying to limit the size of the storage system and not have too many items in it. Here is the outside of it. I was hoping to dig into the side and not affect the terrain, but that didn't work out because of the size I needed. I will have to put some grass blocks on top of it to try to hide it and hide it in the terrain. And here's the front of the cave. It doesn't look good. What I was thinking was that in my last episode I tried block gradients for the iron farm, and I would try that here. So what I'm thinking for this is a volcanic look, so more of a black gradient for this, something that will really stand out from the normal terrain in Minecraft. So you know what time it is? It is time to start a time lapse. Is the finished result. It doesn't use that many blocks. There's deepslate, cobbled deepslate, basalt, smooth basalt, mud, and muddy mangrove roots. It's interesting how you can get two different textures out of one block like deepslate depending on how you place it. I originally tried to do more of a flat wall idea, but it really didn't work. It needed some depth. The muddy mangrove roots are more of a transition, especially if I want to do something on the top with moss or grass. There aren't the entrances yet. I'm going to have to carve those out again. And here is my plan for the interior of the storage system. I should mention that when I filmed this episode, it was before the 1.21 update, and I'm planning on replacing the blocks with the new tough blocks. I think it'll give it a nice good look. Time to get some good old resource gathering done, so I flew around trying to find some glaciers. I got some blue ice for the water streams in my storage system, and next was getting a shulker box unloader for the storage system. I found this design, however, the way it was laid out wasn't really convenient, so I had to move around some parts of it to make it work like I would want it to work. You can put the shulker boxes in the chest in the top, hit the button on the left to start it, it'll unload the items, and there is a water stream on the left where it will take the items into the storage system. And next is I have an input chest that I can put random items into that will go into the storage system. So the reason I wanted to separate the shulker box unloader and the input chest is I didn't want to create a point where everything would have to go through and it would get backed up. Another part of this is that I have so many items to sort through. I need to basically figure out what items I want in my storage system and make sure I have at least a stack of 41 items for that. I'm going to have to sort through this off screen because this is going to take a long time. Of course, I'm starting this by building the item sorters. I feel like I've explained this enough that the redstone circuits will lock the hoppers and it doesn't allow items to go through. Next was just testing items in it by picking an item I never use, which is of course the diorite slab. And if I ever do use the diorite slab, it is really going to mess up my storage system. Of course, the first item sorter will be for stone blocks, as I have a ton from all the grindy projects I've done. I wanted to test this out before I actually built everything, so I put a stone blocks into shulker boxes, put it into the shulker box unloader, and just made sure it worked, and of course it did. I just need a lot of hoppers for this. I headed to the jungle to get some wood, and by the way, my iron farm is producing a lot of iron, more than I know what to do with, which was great as I needed a lot of iron for the hoppers. With all of that, it's time to build the storage system. I have all the redstone components, chest, and etc. So time lapse time. And here is the entire storage system built. Now I just have to build the interior around it, but you can see that I spaced things out. One big thing is I want to make it easy to get to the hoppers if I need to change the items being sorted. And the next obvious step is to place all the blocks in and the diorite slabs. I have to figure out the order I want items to be in, so it'll be the easiest for my brain to remember. I've got all the blocks I want in the item sorters. Now I'm just feeding all of my shulker boxes that have every item that I have into the storage system for it to sort. And that ended up being a mistake. Here is the aftermath. So I still had half a shulker box of TNT left from the last time I got ancient debris, and I put that shulker box into the shulker box unloader, and there was a dispenser that activated some of the TNT. That destroyed the input and also the shulker box unloader and all of the items in the shulker boxes. So I lost a ton of my items with that mistake. I should have used droppers instead of dispensers. I did eventually fix the problem, but still that was a painful moment and I lost so many of my items. I probably lost at least half of my blocks. Moving on from that tragedy, I worked on my interior, placing some stone bricks and mossy stone bricks for the pillars, placing blocks for the ceiling, a mix of diorite and andesite. I do want to use some of the new copper bulbs for lighting. Until then, I'm going to put some chains and lanterns in for lighting. Next, I thought I would carry over the outside of the cave with some deep slate and basalt for the walls. It kind of gives it a bit of texture. You gotta give the cave an entrance so you can at least enter it. I think that's a good idea. Last was the floor. I wanted to keep the grayish stone texture. I added some patches of mossy cobblestone, tough andesite, and other blocks. And last was to place some grass blocks on top of the storage system. You know, because it totally blends into the terrain. It totally does, I swear. Here is the finished result. Now I actually have a working storage system. I can throw random blocks in it if I don't want to organize it. Also, one thing I want to mention is that the plan is to keep it this size. So if I want to put something into the storage system, I'll have to take an item out. Thank you for watching, and I hope you guys enjoyed this episode.